Welcome in everybody to this Jays Digest live stream. The Juan Soto rumors are starting to heat up, and we had some new development today, which Nick broke down in his solo video that he did earlier today. I wasn't able to be there. I was stuck at work, but I'm going to give you my thoughts now. And Nick, some very interesting tidbits of news that came out today regarding the Juan Soto stuff, and it's reason for excitement. It is call for you to lose your marbles if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan. Look, I'm still going to err on the side of caution. Nick is going all in. I think
Yeah, I'm
I'm
back.
worried for him. I think I'm worried for Nick right here. Nick is gone off the deep end. He is all in on the Juan Soto train right here. He is manifesting him signing with the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm still not quite there yet. I hope it happens. Don't get me wrong, but the free agency class is loaded, which we have touched on multiple times. But Juan Soto apparently he's going to go for the most amount of money, and apparently, according to multiple reports, the Blue Jays are going to be offering the most amount of money. So if it was that simple, I think he's a Toronto Blue Jay tomorrow, but there are clearly more wrinkles to this, which we'll try to dissect and make sense of on this live stream. But welcome into everybody. I'm Peter Vryonis alongside, obviously, Nick Gosse. And Nick,
Okay.
exciting stuff going on today. The live streams are back. The live streams are back. Let's just leave it at that.
This very much so reminds me of the Otani watch, maybe to a bit of a lesser degree, but today felt like a day in last December when you were hearing a bunch of rumors about Shohei Otani, about all these things, and now there's a lot of reports, and I'm very curious to get your thoughts on them. I obviously broke them down in the video. I was discussing a bunch of different things, but it's it's interesting, and well, there's a bunch of different things here now. Reports came out today. We have some stuff from John Heyman, which we'll get into. Yeah. I mean, I agree, Daryl. It feels like deja vu to me here to a degree, and
Well, you're doing it to yourself, Nick. You're doing
I
it to
am.
yourself. It's deja vu, but it doesn't have to be that way.
I would
You've
agree.
decided this. You've
However,
made your
I woke
choice
up
here.
this morning and the Juan Soto front, it was pretty quiet regarding the Jays for the past week, and then you get four articles drop, and I'm in. We can go through it one by one. So it started from Andy Martino. Now I will give a shout out to finally having a reporter who's actually fairly reliable. I'm not saying that he's saying the Jays are coming there, but he's been right with New York things. Andy Martino, if you're unfamiliar, shout out to him. He said they are in serious pursuit of Juan Soto. There's widespread belief among Juan Soto bidders that the Jays will come in with the highest offer for him. And you can see this here as a part of his article. Financially aggressive, all these different things. And while some reporters have said that he might be hesitant to go to the Jays, source pushed back. He actually would be open to going to the Jays. And then you had Jim Duquette on MLB Network say basically the same thing. Toronto will be the highest bidder. And then, of course, you have a bunch of different things. And then you have John Heyman on his afternoon show coming in and saying that he will also probably go to the highest bidder, and so the Jays could be one of those. So, Peter, I want to hear your thoughts on this whole. You can call it a debacle. Um, I do think, and this is something that is interesting to me. I think something must have changed over this weekend. Now, maybe it's not anything crazy. Maybe it was the Jays. Some speculating that the Jays just put in a huge offer this weekend. Something changed, and even if you don't believe that he's going to become a Blue Jay, I still don't know. I don't really believe that he's going to become a Blue Jay. I don't think the Jays are the favorites. I think something changed for these three things to happen over the weekend, followed by Scott Boris's mouthpiece coming out and saying, hey, he will go to the highest bidder, and then names the Blue Jays as it. So maybe I'm getting back
Yeah.
in, and we'll get into the chat as well here in a minute. But Peter, I just want to get your thoughts, and everybody in chat, leave your thoughts as well.
Yeah.
It was very intriguing to me that this is all happening at the same time on a Monday regarding the Jays, and momentum is shifting a little bit, at least away from the New York Yankees at the very least. But it's three different reporters now, and Andy Martino is not just he's not a Hector Gomez or anything like that. He is a reliable reporter. He has 100,000 followers on Twitter. He's a New York guy. Widespread belief the Jays will have the highest offer.
Yeah, okay. So before I answer that, I do want to address some of the chats that are coming in here. And first off, Kyle Duffield is saying if Soto signs, doesn't help the team still. We need so much better. Now, if Soto signs, I guarantee you that there's going to be no limit to how much the Blue Jays are going to spend in free agency. So that's one. Then we're gonna go over to the Zilly commenting over here saying, "Do we want Soto at the expense of losing Vlad?" I think those two are a package deal. I don't think Soto comes here with the possibility of Vlad leaving in 1 year's time hanging over their heads. I don't think that's going to happen. And then John B is asking us, what are our thoughts on the Jays Plan B
I
plans.
think we can get into that a little bit later too.
And we will get into that a little bit later. We've given our thoughts on that before. I think there are multiple strong contingency plans that the Blue Jays
A
can
lot
go
more than last
after.
season.
Yes, a lot more than last season. Last year it was Otani or bust. This year it is not Soto or bust. He's clearly by far and away the best player on the market. Don't get my words twisted there. But at the same time, there are other players that can make a huge impact and get this team back to the playoffs. Now, in terms of your question, Nick, I do believe something has changed. It
Agree.
was eerily quiet over the weekend, which is why we didn't really focus on the Juan Soto news over this weekend. We're not just making things up here. We are reporting back to you guys what we hear on a daily basis, whether it's from people that we know, whether it's from people that we see on social media. We are doing our best to sift through all of that and bring you all of that information. It's not over exaggerated by any stretch. But I will say that something has changed, in my opinion, Nick. I do think that the Blue Jays are in a better spot, or in a more favorable spot, I should say, um, as opposed to like where they were a few days ago. And this is not; these are not some hack reporters that are coming out and giving the Blue Jays credit. They are saying that they're a serious player and that there's going to be some traction between Toronto and Juan Soto. We still don't know to what degree. But yes, I do believe something has changed. I'm going to take a more conservative approach than you, however.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go crazy here, Nick, but uh if you ask me what the percentage of Soto going to the Jays now as opposed to a few days ago, I'd say 20% as opposed to 15.
Yeah, I'm up at 25 for what it's worth. And
Okay, that's
a
good.
few
That's
things to note
realistic.
here. For one, there's supposedly a Jeff Passan podcast update happening in about 7 minutes. So if anything comes out notable from that, stay tuned for the stream. Because again, at 7 Eastern, he's on a podcast. I believe it's Corey Kluber's podcast, giving some details. And I always drop some interesting tidbits there. Um, Heyman has always said that it's the Mets followed by the Jays. He has always been in favor of the Mets followed by the Jays, but I do agree with you in the sense of I don't think they're favorites at this point, but the more I've seen about this, it was a very interesting report because Andy Martino is not a guy that, honestly, he's not a guy, I've been following along with him for a while. He's not a guy that reports very often, for one. He very rarely gives full articles like this updating regarding Juan Soto. He'll give some like tidbits here and there, but this wasn't just a reporter saying the Jays or whatever. It is a New York reporter that headlined his entire article regarding how the Jays are going to be serious players. Now, he also mentions in the article that he's not 100% sure where Juan Soto is going to go or anything like that. No one really does. Only Juan Soto, Scott Boras, and maybe a couple of family members know where Juan Soto is, leaning towards. But something must have happened over this weekend, and my guess, this is a complete guess, I don't have sources on this particular matter. My guess is that the Jays, to some degree, made probably the highest offer right now, and Scott Boras wants to put pressure back on the other teams to try to make the number go even higher. That would be my guess right now. That's my
Yeah.
gut instinct, is that they made a big offer, or maybe this is their, second offer, and I think, like, the only logical way for me in my head for these articles to all come out is that I think the Jays, to some degree, either made the highest offer out of all the teams, or matched another team's highest offer for a report to come out like this from multiple people. Because I can't imagine that the Jays would, people would be hearing about the Jays making the highest offer if they weren't doing it, because there was radio silence for the past week, and I don't think the media is jumping the gun to report about the Toronto Blue Jays getting Juan Soto unless they actually hear something of note.
Well, I will counter that point that you're making there, Nick, and say that I'm worried that the Jays are being used as leverage here,
Possibly.
kind of like they were last season or last off season with Shohei Ohtani. It it was basically done and dusted. We had credible reporters, albeit not to the Heyman or Passan levels of credible, but still credible reporters that were saying he was signed to the Toronto Blue Jays. And maybe that was something that came out with his agency. Maybe that was something that got blurted out unintentionally, and it allowed the Dodgers to match the offers. So maybe they know that the Blue Jays are going to be aggressive in their pursuit. They know that they're going to offer a ton of money, which is why they're saying these things, because his preferred destination may not
That's a
be
shame.
may not be Toronto. I'm still trying to remain hopeful, but I'm worried that this is a case of deja vu where the Jays are being used as leverage. I don't want to take the pessimistic route, but we still got to evaluate all the options here. And you know, it's happened before. It's happened before, and fool me once, shame on you, or shame on me. I don't know what the
Whatever it
saying
is.
goes, but whatever it is, you know what I mean. So I'm not going to be fooled two times.
Yep.
I will believe it when I see Soto batting second in the Blue Jays lineup on opening day.
Yeah.
That's when I'll believe it.
And the only thing I will counter back to, I mean, I honestly, I agree with you. I think that might be what's happening. However, in the article, you can see on the screen now, this is from Andy Martino's article. He says, Boris does not need publicity to land Soto for the largest contract. With the Jays, Mets, all these people being financially aggressive, it's hard to see a strategic purpose in conducting this business in public. So he kind of rebuttals the whole leverage thing. I still think there is a degree of that. But like, for all of you who didn't read this article, it's about as exciting of a report as you could have gotten at this moment for Juan Soto. Now, whether you want to believe it or not, it's up to you guys ultimately whether you want to hop back on the train, have some fun. I just do it because I love this. Like, this is my favorite part of the offseason. Yeah, I got my hopes super high last offseason, and it was devastating when Ohtani landed. Landed both figuratively, I guess, and with the Dodgers there. That was unintentional use of words, but I mean, he did land, the plane didn't. But the point here is like, it's I agree with you regarding leverage, but I don't know. I feel a bit more optimistic. And one other thing, and I was talking with a couple of people around Toronto about this. I'm curious to see as well what your thoughts are. There seems to be a bit of a sentiment that Ohtani, I think, always wanted to go out west. Like, in hindsight now, I do think the Jays had a legitimate shot to land him, but I think his preference was always out west. It seems a little bit different with Soto right now. It seems like he just wants to go wherever the money is, quite frankly, which is different than Ohtani. Like, Ohtani always apparently wanted to, his preference was out west. I'm not entirely sold that Juan Soto has a massive preference here regarding teams, regarding location, besides the fact that he wants to win in the future and he wants the most money. So do you have any thoughts on that? I've been talking to people. Also, shout out to everybody in here. Let's try to get to 50 likes, 250 plus of you watching. We all like seeing numbers go up. Do myself a favor, and Peter, hit the like button. But that's one thing that I've been hearing that's maybe a positive for the Jays is like, I don't think Soto cares necessarily if he, like, where in the world he goes, as long as he's getting the most money. And it seems like he really wants to get a record-breaking deal. What's up, Nick?
Yeah, what's up, Nick? I agree with that. I agree with that simply for the fact that he has a ring already with the Washington Nationals. So maybe
And he's been
his
on multiple teams.
yes, he's moved around quite a bit for a guy that hasn't been in the league for too long. So that's definitely possible. I do think geography will play a part here. He's familiar with the East Coast in the United States, so I think he's going to want to stay out east. But I don't know if it's as big of a deal for him as it was to Shohei Ohtani. So maybe you're onto something there, but I'm still going to remain. I'm going to remain cautious because we've seen this story before, and the thing is going to be money here. And the first report that we saw coming out when the offseason started was that Steve Cohen would not be outbid, which is the Mets owner, obviously. So he's not going to be outbid. I think that is that's a
Still
warning
possible.
sign. That's a warning sign. There might be a limit to how much he can spend because sometimes the money could get a little bit too crazy. I don't know how far the Jays are willing to go. That's what I have to wait and see. If they're going to be hell bent on getting this guy and sign him to the largest contract ever, then I think they got him. But I don't know if they're going to be willing to go to the lengths that Steve Cohen has publicly stated that he's willing to go to. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. But I wanted to get to a comment here, Nick, from Craig CCB. So he's asking us both. Do you not think that the Jays are hurting their ability to sign other free agents by prioritizing Soto? Other premium free agents will likely feel like they're second fiddle. And I don't know if you want to go first on this, Nick, but my short answer to that is no. I don't know if you have anything to expand on that. I obviously have my answer here, but I don't think the Jays are hurting themselves because I believe Soto is going to sign within the next week or so, and that's going to open the floodgates for everything. So the Jays They may be putting a lot of their eggs into the Soto basket here, but I think the free agent class is pretty loaded, and they're going to be able to get some good work done with or without Soto joining them.
Yeah, it's interesting, and there's been a lot of talks about maybe if they've signed Soto, then they'll sign Vladdy back to back, and they'll do all these crazy things. I don't think Soto has any direct impact on a Vladdy extension in the sense of I think it's more likely that Vladdy extends if Juan Soto gets signed. I don't think that it has a direct correlation in the sense of I think the Jays are going to get Vladdy signed either way. I don't think it's going to be a question there, even though there has been some up and downs regarding that. But I think if they land Soto, their chances of extending Vladdy are easier. But it is it is interesting. But no, I don't think it really makes it. I also think Vladdy signs later than Juan Soto. Juan Soto's going to sign in the next 4 days, I think, or 5 days, or maybe a week at the maximum. I don't see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signing in the next week unless they pull off. And if they pull off a Vladdy Soto signing back to back, I'll wear Ross Atkins name tag and a T-shirt with his face on it if they manage to pull that one off.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be. I think they'll be separated, but no, I don't think they have a. I don't think it's going to hinder the other one, and no other team is really making massive moves. None of the Jays' targets are off the board yet.
Shout out to Boris here. Very funny comment. If Soto likes money, he'll go to the Mets. If he likes winning, he'll go to the Dodgers. If he's a masochist, he'll come here. That's funny. That's funny. And yeah, if you like pain, sign up for the Toronto Blue Jays, whether it's fandom or whether it's actually in the organization. But yeah, I do think there are other options out there, and part of me is thinking that Vladdy is going to wait till next offseason for him to be the headliner of the free agent class. I don't know what you think of that. I don't know off the top of my head what free agents are going to be headlining the class of 2026,
Might be Vladdy.
but it might be Vladdy, especially if he has another season like the one that he had this year. 26-year-old entering the prime of his career, having an MVP runner-up caliber season sounds like a headliner to me. He's not gonna out headline Soto or Otani, but he might be the next best in line when we're talking about prime free agent candidates. So hopefully, hopefully that thing gets sorted out. But I'm worried that he is going to test free agency, and he probably should at this point because the Jays waited way too long to get this thing done.
Yeah, and it's Ross Atkins' fault if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Maybe not him directly. It's the Blue Jays' fault if Vladdy leaves. He should have been locked up a while ago. You could have locked him up at multiple points. They've held out for whatever reason, and it might end up biting them. Or maybe Vladdy, deep down, doesn't want to be a Blue Jay. I mean, I think he does. All signs point to him wanting to be one, but maybe there's a world where he just decides, hey, I don't know if I want to be a Blue Jay. What's up, Limousine? Hope you're doing well. It's been a while. Hey, Nick and Peter, Merry Christmas in advance. What are your thoughts? Guys like Emmanuel Bonilla, Luis Meza, Emmanuel Beltre, what are your thoughts on our international free agents over the years? Thanks. That is a question that I have not put my mind to during this frenzy. I think Bonilla is going to be good. I think Beltre's probably going to maybe use as a trade chip there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Peter, but I haven't really put too much thought into the international free agents or any of the prospects. I mean, any of the prospects since this Soto stuff has gotten underway. But I think they do have an okay international friend pool.
Yeah, I think they do too, but it's definitely not a strength. And I'm just looking at the free agents for next year, which I know is crazy to do, especially with everything going on. But yeah, Vladdy is the headliner, the one expected to make the most amount of money. She's going to be 27 at the time when that does come around. And another interesting name on that list is Munetaka Murakami, the Japanese superstar who declared yesterday, actually, that this season is going to be his last in Japan. And if you're not familiar with him, he's in his early 20s. The guy hits the crap out of the ball. He was one of the best players on the Japanese team that won the World Baseball Classic. So it's looking like Vladdy and him are going to headline the class if Vladdy doesn't sign an extension before this
He
season.
needs to.
He does because I'm worried if he hits free agency because then it's free game, man. It's free game. Any team can go out there and sign this guy, which really has me worried. I when you think Toronto Blue Jays, Nick, and he may not be the superstar that we thought he was going to be, and he may still turn out to be that. He's still very young. But right now, maybe he's a little bit too inconsistent for our liking. But when you think Toronto Blue Jays, you think Vladdy. He is the first name that comes to mind. He is the Toronto Blue Jays brand.
Yep.
So I'm not gonna be so quick to move on from that guy. And you got to get this thing done. But I think they've missed out. They've missed out on their window, and that is what worries me. So getting Soto or getting a big free agent in this class, I think is not only imperative to being competitive for next season, but it's imperative to keeping Vladdy. Because why would he sign up for the rest of his career if he sees you just be idle in the offseason? Again, for the second year in a row. I wouldn't sign up for that if I'm a premium free agent about to get paid. No, thank you. Come on.
Yeah. And yeah, I think ultimately it's going to get done. I don't know when it'll be, and maybe Vladdy waits and does some things. Some other updates I want to give you now. Not the past and stuff, but a couple things that have come out over the past, since we started streaming over the past, 15, 20 minutes here. So a couple different things. This was from another reporter. One person with knowledge of discussions believe the Red Sox, Mets, and Jays have all made offers upward of $600 million, and the Yankees are in the 550 range. A former Soto teammate recently told that he's seeking a contract north of $700 million. So that's one side of the thing. Apparently, the Jays have made an offer over 600. I think they definitely have at this point. I don't think the 550 or anything close to that gets it done. And then Jack Curry said, I think we see a resolution in the next 7 to 10 days. So I think a resolution regarding Soto is going to happen in the next 7 to 10 days. It seems like the Jays are going in. If you think back to, we had a video on it. This was towards the start of the sweepstakes. I don't know if you remember, Peter, but it was the Ben Nicholson-Smith article where they basically said that the Jays, their alternative payroll don't care about the money, and they could make a massive offer. And at the time, it was one of the biggest, reports, and they were actually going all in. I mean, they have the money to do so, and if Edward Rogers wants to say, hey, we need to get this team back to competitive nature, get back into actually getting the fans into the game, maybe they just said enough's enough, and they go out and they get Juan Soto. As Nick drops a $6.99. Thank you so much, Nick. If the Jays don't land Soto, which free agent signing would salvage the offseason for you guys? That's a very good question. Thank you so much, Nick, for the $6.99.
Thanks, Nick. Really appreciate it. And I'll attack that question first. And I think Nick and I are both kind of in agreement here on what we think. It's a combination of players that would make the offseason a B plus, in my opinion, or maybe even an A minus. It would be Anthony Santander. It would be probably Max Fried, and then another bat, in my opinion, would make that an A minus offseason. And anything less than that, I don't think is good enough. So if you don't get Soto, you have to get multiple players. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I have the same. Soto, or not Soto. If they don't get Soto, Santander, probably Max Fried, and then another guy. Do I think that's super likely? I don't know. Like even Teoscar Hernandez, if he's open to coming back, I'd probably maybe prefer him over Santander, albeit Santander in the AL East hit 40 home runs last year, but you're also buying high on him. So I don't think it would have to be multiple players. And I also, no matter how many people you signing Juan Soto would be better than the 3 acquisitions that they get back, just because, I mean, it's going to be hard to put up, Soto gives you between 7 and 9 WAR. And if you get a season of that's Max Fried and Anthony Santander, you'd hope in a good year they give you 9 WAR, because it's going to be interesting. But that's why I think like momentum might shift. At least Edward Rogers might just say, screw it, let's just go out there and give him what they need. But I don't know. I mean, Soto and Vladdy in one mega announcement, I don't think there's a world where that happens.
That would be a dream, man. That'd be a dream.
I mean, if we want to get really delusional, maybe that's what they're holding out for. They're setting it up, all these things. Realistically, I think Soto knows where he wants to go. He's just kind of finalizing the details, maybe leveraging the teams against each other. Because again, he's not going to be a Blue Jay for the next 15 years, even if he signs with the Jays, like for sure. There's going to be opt-outs there after years, probably 3, 6, 9, all these things to maximize his potential earning ability. So there's a lot of things that go into the contract, but we still haven't really heard like favorites, really. Like Mets are the favorites. We've heard a bunch of random Red Sox stuff, which has kind of died down. There's a world where Soto gets a contract over $700 million.
Yeah, and he probably will. He probably will. And if the Blue Jays want to go down that route, then I think they have a chance to get him. But a thing that we've touched on, Nick, a couple of times is that look at the amount of revenue that Shohei Ohtani generated for the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was in the ballpark of $120 million in his first season, and that's more than he's getting paid. Well, technically, he's getting paid $2 million a season right now, but we know it equals out to about $70 million over the course of 10 years. And he generated a lot of that revenue back just in his first season, winning a World Series, winning the World Series MVP, not winning the World Series MVP, just a regular season MVP. But it shows what kind of impact that he has just on the landscape of a franchise. I don't see that same kind of impact off the field, nowhere even close for Juan Soto. So I don't know. The Jays are saying, or everyone's saying that they're going to have the highest offer. But when push comes to shove, let's say Steve Cohen outbids you, are you going to go out there and outbid him again? And overpay by your initial mark from your initial mark by $100 million? I don't know. I find that very hard to believe, which is why I'm just trying to stay level-headed on this entire thing and not get carried away. But there's a lot of factors that go into this thing, and it would definitely be a smart decision to sign him from a baseball perspective. But I don't know from a business perspective if it's worth giving Juan Soto $700 million because I don't know if you recoup all of that money back.
Yeah, I think you probably do. I'd assume if,
Maybe,
if they win baseball
maybe
games,
if
but
you win, you would have to win.
and
You would have to win.
I mean, it seems like they've already given him 600. So are they willing? And it seems for Ben Nicholson Smith, like they usually, with the way that these guys go, they usually have a firm line that they don't go above for all the. It's very number driven for all their free agents. So they stick at their, whatever number they had coming in. But they do have an alternative budget for Juan Soto, and maybe that alternative budget is what ultimately gets them the star player and gets them finally one of the free agents. Even though I think in all likelihood. We'll probably hear some more reports tomorrow coming out about how, the Mets are viewed as the favorites and things like that. Maybe we hear more about the Jays, though. The Jays, at this point, if they do offer the most money, I would be quite impressed. And it would also be in Blue Jays fashion to offer the most money and not get the player.
Yeah, it would be. And it would make it more painful because then we've been lied to the entire offseason. We've been told that his priority is money and his priority is trying to get the largest contract. So I feel if you offer that amount of money that he's looking for and maybe even go a bit beyond that, then you're giving yourself a pretty good shot to land this guy. He's a great player. He's a fantastic player that, in my opinion, immediately vaults the Blue Jays back into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do they need to add some other pieces to become a World Series contender? Yes, because Soto is not going out there on the mound and getting you 18 wins either. Like it's not what he's going to do. He's not Shohei level in that regard. But offensively, he is probably the most patient hitter that I've ever seen. He's one of the most refined hitters that I've ever seen, and maybe his ceiling isn't as high as some guys like Shohei or Aaron Judge in terms of regular season individual numbers, but his floor, his baseline, you know exactly what you're getting out of him. And maybe every now and then he's going to pop off and hit 45, 50 home runs for you in a season, but that's not really the expectation that you have. You know you're getting close to a 300 batting average. You're getting an on-base percentage of around 400 to 420, which is his career average, by the way, and an OPS close to 1,000. That's what he does. He does that in his sleep. So he's one of the safest bets that we've ever seen on the market with not too much injury history to speak of, if any.
Yeah,
So it's a great investment. I think it's a great investment baseball wise.
and it would be about 1 billion Canadian. Also, shout out to the 300 of you almost in here. He hit 50 likes, so thank you guys for that. I do want to ask the chat a question quickly here. Yeah, opt out after year 3 or 4, I believe, is what they're going for. And Peter, you can answer as well. Just a simple yes or no in the chat. So if you're watching, you're listening, open up the tab or whatever you're doing, type in the chat. Do you think the Jays will get Juan Soto? I just want to see what the. Do you think they're going to land him this week or just in general? I'm just kind of curious to see. I have a feeling there's going to be majority no's. I do think that it's opened up a little bit, but yes or no, do you think the Jays are going to land Mr. Soto? Also hit the like button if you haven't already. We're at 50. Try to get 75 quickly here. But Peter, It's do you think the Jays? I'm very curious to see what the chat says here. I feel like it's gonna be mostly no's. Do you? But not whether you want him to be a Jay. Do you think the Jays land Soto? My
Well,
prediction, no.
no. Okay. Well, I'm also going to say no, but I'm more interested to see the percentage or the chance that you think the Blue Jays
Yeah.
have to land Juan Soto.
So after that, leave the
I
number
think that
percent
would be
chance.
a better barometer. Like, yeah, most are going to say no. The homers are going to say yes. So it's not really an accurate gauge. I want to know the percentage. I stand currently at 15%, I think, or 20%, 15 to 20%. Nick said 25 or something in that
Yep,
nature. I don't want to put words in your mouth,
25.
Nick, but 25, that's pretty good odds right there. Pretty good odds considering the teams that they're competing with. So maybe you're being a little generous. Maybe I'm being a little bit too pessimistic, but I'm going to say 15 to 20% chance, and you're putting yourself in the conversation. That's all you can ask for. But the main thing for me is to not mess up your plan B. So if you don't get him, which you probably won't, okay, let's not set ourselves up for failure. You're probably not going to get him. What do you have for me after that?
And
Because if it's a bunch of filler players, if it's a bunch of guys that are not going to really contribute, then we're going to be talking about another season of missing the playoffs and potentially your franchise guys leaving
and the
at the end of
segue
it.
that I'm curious to see the chat's thoughts on Nolan Arenado because we had a video on it. We've kind of discussed it a little bit here. It pivots a little bit. So if Soto decides to sign elsewhere, do you think as a part of the offseason, the Jays, do you think they should pursue a guy like Nolan Arenado, who again is coming off of a pretty down year? Is that someone that you'd want the Jays to pursue at this point? Nolan Arenado, obviously not as the main guy, but maybe an Arenado, Max Fried, Santander offseason, something of that nature, where you get some, veterans guys in there. You get Nolan to play third. You obviously have Anthony Santander in left, and then you have, of course, Max Fried as your ace. I know a lot of people were saying no. He's coming off of a down year. Kind of curious to see if Nolan Arenado would be a guy. I know I'm probably higher on them than most, even though I'm risky, very risky. But it wouldn't cost much, I don't think, which is the bigger thing. We know the Yankees are in play for a couple of these guys. The Mets are in play for Nolan. But he is 33 and aging. I'm not going to say fully washed. I know a lot of you guys in chat are. He's definitely aging.
I would say yes if the price is right, but at the same time, we've heard the number thrown around there, $38 million around ish to spend this offseason. 20 million of that is going to be going to Arenado, and then you're not really going to add anything else. Then it's a no for me. So if this is a secondary move that you're making in consequence to some of the other moves that you had already made, then yeah, if you're going to go over budget, yes, but if not, and you're spending half of your allocated budget to a guy who put up 2 wins last year, no.
What's up, Larry? Yeah. I don't know if he'd want to be in Toronto necessarily either. However, it's going to be interesting for anyone who quickly tuned in. This is the update on Soto. Jays are supposedly seen as being the highest bidders, or at least going to end. I would be sad if they ended with the highest offer and we still got second place in the sweepstakes, because at that point there was nothing you could do. And Jeff Passan, we got finally, shout out to Ben Turner, we got the quote from Jeff Passan in the podcast, so we can give this as before we wrap up here. Wrap up in a few minutes here. So we have an update, and it's nothing groundbreaking, but I'm going to throw it out here anyways. So Jeff Passan was on the Corey Kluber podcast, and he asked the Jays, and I'll just throw this up. Nothing crazy. It's honestly exactly what I expected Jeff Passan to say, because it's kind of the way he goes about things. But here's Jeff Passan's 33 seconds ago. This is what he said on the Toronto Blue Jays. He said, when making the case for New York, the Mets, the Yankees, Boston, and Toronto, the Toronto Blue Jays can completely remake the organization and sell Juan Soto on going to Canada and being the sports hero for an entire country. In the end, it's going to be about the money, Jeff Passan says. So, shout out to Ben Turner as well for that. He does great work. Shout out, Ben. Does this change anything for you? No, nothing too crazy. However, it is now Jeff Passan coming out and said it's going to, in the end, when choosing a team, it's going to be about the money, which means if the reports from earlier today, I wish they would have asked him directly about those reports, but it's not a Jays podcast. It was a, MLB one. If that's the case about it's going to be about the money, it's an optimistic thing from Jeff Passan.
Yeah, how many times have we heard
A
that?
lot.
Like we'll use Kawhi Leonard as an example, who has been brought up a few times. This guy won a championship. He brought the Toronto Raptors their first ever championship in the NBA. He was promised the world. People, restaurant owners in Toronto were giving him free food for life. He was basically a hero in Canada. Like people started playing basketball and started tuning into basketball, and we were having watch parties in Montreal, in St. John's, Newfoundland, in Vancouver. This is not a Canada team. This is a Toronto team. People were having watch parties for Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors, and it still wasn't enough. And Fitzroy Palmer is saying, "I'm too negative." I'm not negative. I'm being real, man. I'm being real. We've seen this story so many times before. We saw it last year. How many times did the analysts say, "Oh, this is going to be a great opportunity for Shohei Ohtani. He can tap into a new market in Toronto. He can be a superstar in three different countries." That ultimately didn't matter. I don't know if that is a selling point for a free agent in any sport. It's great, but at the end of the day, these guys are human and they have priorities. They have money that they're talking about. He wants to get paid. Soto wants to get paid. He's going to go to the team that gives him the most money or the team that matches the most amount of money that is the best situation. At the end of the day, that is how he's going to make this decision. He's not going to care about being a poster boy for Canadian sports. I'm sorry, but this is why we're kind of a joke to other American teams or to other American sports writers. It's because we think people care about this kind of stuff. They're professional athletes. They don't want to be superheroes. They don't want to be, they don't care about an entire country. They're going to get paid wherever they go. So if you match the biggest contract, if you give him that, if you give him what he's asking for, if you give him a good situation around him, you have a chance. But I don't think this matters too much. I didn't mean to go on a rant there, Nick, but I just don't think it matters as much as some people on the outside looking in make it out to be.
Yeah, and maybe some players would care. What interests me more about this specific thing is this is the last thing. In the end, when choosing a team, it's going to be about the money. That's what matters to me more than the hero thing with the Jays. We've been going through that before with the Kawhi. We've gone through it with Shohei Ohtani. You can run the whole Canada thing. At the end of the day, it's going to be about the money for the Toronto Blue Jays. But that's the big thing. If it's about the money, then the reports today lean in the Jays' favor. But any final thoughts before we wrap it up here? We will
Yeah.
have. Again, there's probably going to be a lot of updates tomorrow surrounding this stuff. It is the week of Juan Soto. That's what I'm going to call it and designate the week before winter meetings to Juan Soto. And then as soon as this week ends, the week after is going to be full winter meetings with tons of moves going down. So any final thoughts, Peter, and the chat? We're at 64 likes. Let's try to get to 75. So on your way out, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new as well. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming down, and it was been good though. It's been fun. I like talking about the rumors, even though I'm optimistic, but I'm also a little bit pessimistic as well here. I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you got to give yourself the best chance possible. And in order to do that, offer the most money and then go from there. And if you get outbid, if you're really serious, offer more money. I don't know. I don't know what else to.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game right now. Offer the most amount of money. If you get outbid, if you're serious about this, offer more. That's all I
That's what we're
got.
hoping. If it is about the most money, we hope the Jays can get it done. They have the
They
resources
can.
to do it.
They can. Yeah, they can.
Just how
That's
far do
right.
they want to stretch is
Yeah,
is the
exactly.
biggest question.
That's that's what we're gonna have to wait and see on. If how badly do they want him? Steve Cohen said he won't be outbid. You're the largest telecommunications company in Canada. You can go toe to toe with this guy.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
a whole army. You're a whole army.
They
He's
can
won.
surpass him if they want to. It's just a matter of if you're going to do that. And we'll keep you up to date with all of it. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, Dustin. Yeah. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. And again, we'll keep you up to date. No, it's going to be crazy. And if, when Soto signs, we'll have some sort of video or stream out for you soon. And ultimately, let's buckle up. Because last time last year, we were having streams similar to this, and then stuff really started to pick up. Maybe this time, it would be good karma if we ended up getting Juan Soto, I think, after everything that's happened, and that's the only hope I'm holding out. Maybe Edward Rogers owes us a favor. We're 2 likes away from 75. All right, everybody, have a great evening, and we will see you guys in a video tomorrow. So make sure to tune into that. Tons of stuff coming down. So have a great night, and we'll see you guys later. And hopefully next time we're talking, Juan Soto